Welcome to the RAS Project, episode 98, a conversation about life, entrepreneurship, personal development, family tech, and marketing. My name is Ivan Temokov, and I'm your host. And usually, my amazing sidekick, Courtney Turner, will be joining me. However, we're still trying to work through some technical problems. Hopefully, we'll have her join here shortly so she can pop into the show with me. But if this is your first time tuning in, on this podcast, you will gather 100% real, raw, and unfiltered life-changing advice to help you level up in every aspect of your life and business and help you reach your goals and dreams. So I wanted to take the opportunity on this episode to actually talk about some things, being that, you know, it is the end of the year. There's so much that's going on. We are in the holiday season also. And, I just wanted to spend some time talking about a few things, simply because there's just been so much that has happened in 2020 in life and business, a lot of different things. And I think I just had a Courtney that just popped on. So let me see if I can get her on here. So, Courtney, good morning. How are you?
I am okay. That was very difficult to sign this morning. I do not know what happened.
Yeah, I know, right? It's technology never ceases to amuse me. Honestly, I feel like it works when it wants to, and then it fails to work. Whenever. Yeah. So we're live. We're up and running. Impeccable timing for you to jump on. How's your day going?
It's going okay. Yeah, I feel awesome. Like it's Monday and I did not sleep enough, but otherwise good.
I know, right? It's it's really interesting because that I feel the same way talking about sleep. So Friday night, Friday or Saturday night, I actually went to bed at a fairly decent time. And when I say fairly decent time, it's like 10:30. And mind you, for me, that's like usually that's early for me because I don't make it to bed until midnight, especially with two kids running around. And so I woke up at 6 a.m. the following morning. And, it was invigorating. I'll admit that it's invigorating. It's actually something that I'm striving to do because I haven't gotten enough sleep for as long as I can remember. But like, what's really weird about that is that I become tired sooner throughout the course of the day as you get up earlier. Have you experienced that?
Oh, if you get up earlier, that you're tired. Yeah, sure. Your body is used to being up for a certain amount of hours, and so the circadian rhythm is pretty hardwired, and you feel like you're already at bedtime, even though it's earlier, but it's because you've been up for that long.
Right.
That makes sense.
It was a rapper that I saw on Instagram that posted a quote that the way you win the day is by getting up early. And I thought that was pretty cool because I feel like, I want to win the day every day, but getting up early seems like it's always a challenge. In fact, I feel like, that's probably one of the things that I want to work on is like, trying to figure out like, how do I get to bed on time the night before, like regardless of what's happening in my life, it's just like, because this, I mean, there's always something that's going on. Right. But like, how do you make it a priority? How do you like say, you know what? I mean, I've got a million things to do, but my sleep is a priority.
Well, I feel like that's really important. I mean, it's setting the priority, but also not always physically feasible. I mean, I've set early bedtimes and then I'll just lie there, or I'll actually get to bed early, but because I went to bed so early, I'll wake up like midnight and be just lying there awake. So as much as it's good to build that habit and to prioritize it, I think that, your body has its own circadian rhythm, and I think it's important to listen to that. Some people are more nocturnal, some people are more early risers, and we're not all the same that way. So I think it is important. Obviously, not everybody has the luxury to set their own schedule.
Right.
But if you do, I think that it's important to actually listen to that. Like, I'm one of those people who, for a while when I was coaching CrossFit, I would coach like the really early hours. So I would wake up at 4 a.m. and it would be blackout, 4 a.m. Like, you're getting up and starting the day. And it didn't matter how early I went to bed. It messed with my hormones so dramatically. It took me almost a year to recover.
Oh, wow.
Like a year after setting my schedule. And it doesn't matter how much sleep I get. I can't start my day before the sun rises.
Interesting.
It messes with my melatonin and my cortisol awakening response. And it completely reversed my hormones. And it really messed me up. I mean, my side effects were pretty drastic.
That's interesting that you say that, because you're I've never been a morning person for like majority of my life, and like it's one of those things that, like, just because I'm not a morning person doesn't mean that I can't be a morning person, because I was actually thinking about this recently too. It's like, okay, if I go to bed earlier the night before, let's say I go to bed at 10 o'clock, right? And when I would go to bed at like midnight or maybe closer to 1. So that's like 2 to 3 hours later, right? So then the following morning, I would actually be up earlier, which means that I'll be up at like 5, maybe 6. So like the trade-off is, do you wake up earlier the following morning and be more productive and energized and alert? Or do you push through the night before? Because when you think about it, it actually counterbalances, right? In terms of time, because you go to bed earlier the night before, wake up earlier the following day, but still you actually are just trading off time. But what you're gaining is, I think, the alertness and advantage in the day after.
Yeah, so that's why I say I think people need to really honor their own circadian rhythm, because we have called like peak hours. So for me, like, I kind of, my like 12 to 2 midday window is when I'm most alert and like most vital, and I'm most productive during that time. But that's not true for everyone. Everyone has a different they have different peak hours. And so, but me personally, like I was saying, like, it wasn't about how much sleep I got. It was the fact that I was waking up before the sunrise, and I'm so tuned in. So we're still in California. We have the daylight savings time. So depending on the time of year, I may wake up an hour later or an hour earlier, but I really wake up with the sun. And so therefore, no matter how late I go to bed, which is unfortunate because I can stay late if I'm left to my own devices. That's where I have to prioritize. But if I stay up late, I will still wake up with the sunrise. That's just how my body is wired. So
interesting you said that. I mean, I don't think a lot of people pay attention to that, but the things you were just talking about, has such a huge impact on your energy levels, on your alertness, on your productivity, and I've noticed that, honestly. Like, I know getting up earlier, when I do get up earlier, it's like my level of productivity seems to be higher. Like, I seem to just like plow through. And then
you might be more of a morning person. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And, last week was, and this is something I wanted to talk about on this episode, is reflecting on this year. Is like, I mean, last week, excuse me, I should say, was just totally screwed up. Like, I was stressed beyond, like, I don't know if I've been this stressed in a while last week, just because so much was happening, mainly, client related stuff, business related stuff. And like, I let that shit get to me. And what happened is I only made it to the gym once.
Oh, no.
Week. Yeah. Like, I know, right? And like, I started to think about that. I'm like, okay, like, when you become more self-aware about like the things that really work for you and the things that don't, and how to mitigate stress. And here's what I found out is focus on waking up earlier, because it'll help you all around be more productive, more energized. But then still push through and make it to the gym, because it really sets you up from a personal development and a fitness standpoint to be the best version, regardless of what happens. But like, how do you not allow that stress?
So here's what I would like to invite you to
Mhm.
possibly do. So I actually don't advise people who are super stressed out and sleep deprived to just push their way through the gym. I don't think every day, just because it's on your calendar, okay, I need to go get a super
Yeah.
to the wall kind of workout today. And I am totally like, I'm totally guilty of this. Like sometimes I'm like, okay, well, I had this workout plan. I'm going to do it, come hell or high water. But really, sometimes on those days, I'm not saying you should go weeks without, going to the gym, but on those days, you might actually be better off going for a long walk, or even breaking up. Like if you have a super stressful, busy day, take, like every break you get, take 5 minutes and walk around the block. And those, it'll accumulate, but you'll get some movement, some blood flow. You're getting some activity. And it doesn't even have to. I actually do recommend a walk because it is meditative. It has a hormonal benefits. It has cognitive benefits. It's de-stressing. But you could do short bursts of movement too. Like you could be in the, if you have a long day at the computer and, every hour get up and do like 10 squats or 15 push-ups and break it up that way, as opposed to forcing yourself to go for a super hard, get to the gym, do a super hard workout that day. That's added stress. And when your cortisol levels are already elevated, your adrenals are pumping, that has a negative impact on what your goals are. So I actually don't recommend you force yourself every day to just because it's on the calendar, especially when you're sleep deprived and really stressed. I would look at, things that are more movement oriented and ways to break up the day as opposed to forcing yourself to get in a formal like workout per se.
That's a really good point. And, I'm one of those people that's constantly in pursuit of self-discovery. Mm-hmm. And what you were just saying, is definitely something I need to try, because here's one of the situations I run into is like, and last week, mind you, was like probably, very exceptional. Like I haven't been like that stressed in a very long time. And in fact, I'm going to be making a video around that because, I was one of those people that's been like in complete denial that stress basically exists, because I never truly showcased it until like it totally impacted me. But when you were talking about like push yourself to the gym, here's something that I've encountered. Like, I'll have a bad day where like there's just so much on my mind. I'm distracted, lack of energy, lack of motivation, really. And then like I'll push myself to the gym, and once I get to the gym, like you're like in so much denial of actually going there because you're just not in the right mental state. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be my therapy. So I get to the gym, and then like the first maybe 10 minutes is like, holy shit, man. Like I got to stretch, I do this. But then once I get going, it's like I get going,
Yeah. And that's true for most people. But what you start to learn is there is a difference between, there's a reason you can't feel pain in the middle of a workout. It's because you get that adrenaline rush. And that is biological. It comes from the fight or flight response. So if you, back in like, caveman times, if there were a bear coming to chase you and you had a broken leg or, a sprained ankle, you feel that pain because it's more important to your survival to run from that bear.
Yeah.
However, in more modern times today, we don't need to do that, right? We could maybe recognize that we have an injury and we can get medical attention. But most of us aren't running from bears or lions and tigers, so we have that luxury. And because we do have that luxury, we need to understand there's always a trade-off. So there are times where sometimes it takes a little bit of practice to really intuitively understand them. There's times where we're just being lazy. We're like, okay, I don't feel like working out today. And those are times to push through. And usually after the first 5-10 minutes, we're like, okay, I got this. And you start to get that little burst of energy and you can push through. Other times it's really your body saying like, hey, this is going to be more stress than we need right now. And to just keep pumping those, adrenals is not necessarily beneficial. And that's why we need to periodize our training. That's why we need to have recovery days. And that's why we need to manage our stress. Because just pumping more stress hormones into us, and exercise does, And a certain amount of stress is necessary. That's how we adapt, and that's how we grow. We need a certain amount of stress, but it's like anything. It's a bell curve. A little bit is good, and too much is not. So the benefits are to have diminishing returns.
Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point, and I think as I'm reflecting on 2020, what you were talking about is one of the things that, in fact, that I've been thinking about. It's like, why have I done so terribly overall? Like, in September, I did carnivore, and even though, like, towards the end of it, like, I started getting sloppy, I still lost 10 pounds in 30 days. Yeah. And that was like monumental because I've never done anything like that. And so I look at that, I reflect on that, I'm like, great. But then I look at my overall fitness journey, which I've been really trying to round out to make it more consistent and become a more natural routine. What you just said has been probably my main struggle. It's like, is it laziness because I can get off my ass and get to the gym? Or is it a mental state of like stress and maybe anxiety that is causing me, that's prohibiting me of actually getting into the gym? And I don't know if I feel like that's an ongoing struggle for me. I'm trying to determine, like, which is it? Is it laziness, or like, is it like a mental struggle, like to where I can't make it in the gym? Because you're right. It's a really good point where you said about the adrenaline rush, because once I do get going, and like these days, like, I'm trying to burn 700 calories in cardio on the gym, panting like a fucking mule. And like, mid, like once I hit like 350, it's like, oh, I'm going, I'm moving, like the adrenaline rush is like overcoming you. But like, as we're going into 2021, like I'm really trying to reflect on, okay, how can I prioritize my fitness? How can I push through these boundaries? Like, what do I need to do? Is it, I'm too lazy, or like, and when I say lazy, it's like, you got too much shit going on today. Like, I just can't make it to the gym. Or is it, I didn't get enough sleep, I'm stressed, which as an entrepreneur, I feel like you're stressed every day. Yeah. The reality of things is like, you've got stress. You just learn how to manage that stress, I think, as you evolve as an entrepreneur. So what's your thoughts? I mean, like, how do you go about that?
So it's really, I would say it's really been a journey for me, because I am a very kind of type A kind of person, and I call it a deep dive person. So I kind of go all in with things, and fitness is a passion of mine. So it's something that I always want to prioritize, because I love that adrenaline rush, because I know I'm going to feel better mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, all the things. But I also recognize that, I have to kind of check in with myself and, figure out when is the right time to really push, and when is the right time to do more of maybe an active recovery day. When is, if I haven't gotten enough sleep, and I'm not talking about like the 6.5 hours, but there are times where I'm getting like 4 or 5 hours sleep. And is that really a day for me to push super hard at the gym? Probably not, because I'm probably not going to have the benefits of it. Because really we think about that time in the gym as the time where we're working hard, and we think that's where all the rewards are coming from, but they're actually not. They're really coming from our recovery phase. That's where we build muscle. That's where we burn fat. That's where, we're optimizing our all the efforts that we have put in that gym time. So I've gotten better over the years at kind of assessing where I'm at. And, it doesn't necessarily mean I won't do a workout that day, but it means that I might change what I'm doing. So there are days where if I'm really just like, I'm really stressed, really have not slept, and, I'm kind of like burning the candle on both ends, then that might be a day where I might do more of like a hike with a friend, because it's social, nature, it's meditative, or even just a long walk by myself, more of a yoga, restorative, that kind of thing. And then or I might, do, for me personally, some weight training is actually very meditative when I focus just on form. I'm not going for a PR. I'm working on the technical aspects of something. Skill-oriented stuff, because skill-oriented stuff requires so much mind-body connection. That can be very meditative. it's going to be different for everybody, and it depends on where they're at in their journey as well. But I would say the key takeaway that I could share with other people that I think is important for everybody is to really start listening to their bodies and to understand where they're at and know that not every day is the same. And therefore you can't just, or rather you just shouldn't just push, every day. Like even if you're following a very specific program, you may have like a, 4-day a week where you have these specific set programs. You may wake up one day and you've gotten very little sleep and you've got a slate of, really stressful work things and, you've got your family and you may say, okay, I'll move this one day. And that's not going to throw you off, to where if anything, I think one of the things Fitness Journey really teaches you is that it's not about getting it right and perfect all the time, because that's never going to happen. It's about consistency, and it's about being able to pick up where you left off.
As you were talking about these things, I wanted to give a highlight into like what my ideal workout schedule basically looks like. And this has been, I've been on this for about 8 weeks now, and I truly, truly wanted to make it a success. Like I really want to fully embrace it. And like, what I mean by embracing it is like 6 days in the gym, basically. What 6 days in the gym for me looks like is, and mind you, this, I alternate this, is day one is back, which mind you, I'm someone that has back problems, lower back problems. So like I got to take it easy, or like I've learned to do like exercises that basically alleviate the lower back pain. So, I don't have to go to a chiropractor, feel like, and I've done that in the past, like every couple of years, I'll have to go to a chiropractor and get adjusted. Only when I got educated enough and found out like, okay, I can avoid a chiropractor visit. But day one is usually a back, day two is, chest focus. Day 3 is legs. Day 4 is arms. Day 5 is shoulders. And day 6 is more of like a rounded workout. And then day 7 is meant to be rest. Now, the problem with that is it's like, I can barely make it in the gym, a couple of days. And that's like, I've averaged 3 days in the gym, and mind you, I've learned a lot about this too.
Sure.
I've learned that when I do make it to the gym, first of all, I do need to make it to the gym. And it's like my cycling journey of 7 years. It's like, it's not as much about endurance and performance, but it's more about mindset development and development of your personality and character.
Right. Well, I would encourage you, if you have been, particularly this year or more recently, consistently getting 3 days a week, then maybe I would change up because I think success and, being able to check off that box is really important to our mental state and to being able to make progress. So, rather than always feeling like we're behind the ball. So I would encourage you maybe to look at your program and your schedule and have 3 days that you commit to going a week, because that seems to be realistic, right? And maybe you can shift it. So instead of it being these body part splits, you might combine 2, or you might do, more full body days. I can talk to you more about how to program that.
Sure.
But then this way, if you do get 4 or 5 days, that's a bonus. And then you feel like you've really won the week, as opposed to feeling like 3 days is realistic and you've set yourself up for 6, and then you've gotten, you've only done 50% of what you've set out to do. That's an awful feeling to have week after week. But if you change it, and you can change your program each 3 days a week and still have tremendous benefits and progress. And there are ways to change that up, like some of it doing more full body days, or doing, combining some of those split body parts. So some of those workouts might be a little bit longer, but if you're able to get 3 days a week, then I would encourage you to maybe look at that. That way you're feeling a sense of success. And any more than that, that doesn't mean you only go 3 days. If there's a week that you can get 4 or 5, awesome. Then you've had a huge win for that week.
That's a really good point. A couple of things, and I've explored those, but one thing about me is like, I'm always wanting to push my limits. Like, it's part of like growing as a person, really. It's not just, looking at it, from this year and really just over the last couple of years, since I've really become more proactive with my fitness journey, and also like the wins, which is the gratitude for me. Like, what have been my wins? I mean, I look at the wins and like, over summertime, I'll do 2 sessions of like cycling like 30 to 35 miles. And I've gone great lengths to that. And I truly enjoy doing that. And then with the gym, like with carnivore, like losing 10 pounds, but then, I gained 10 pounds after that. And I was at the lowest weight, at the end of September this year that I had been since I was 18 years old.
Oh, wow.
So like that was a huge, huge monumental win for me. But I've also looked at it like the sustainability part, I think, is very hard.
More important, to be really honest. It's a long game. I always say like it's great to achieve short-term goals. It's empowering. It's exciting. And, I think we need to have those from time to time. But ultimately, the goal is to be able to keep moving for life, right? We want longevity. What is it if you reach like some sort of peak and then you're done,
Exactly. And that's actually what I've seen a lot in the gym, and like how that translates to me in business and in life is like, like I'll be at the free weights, right? And I'm like here doing my reps, like I got to do, multiple reps, of X amount, and so I'm sitting here doing it. And like, you'll see these guys that come in and like, they'll grab the heaviest weight, like 45 pounds on each side. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, are you trying to kill yourself? Like you see them, like they're literally just walking up to the free weights and just picking them up. And like they'll do a few like they'll do like a few, and they're done. They'll walk away. And like I was actually telling this to a couple people, and I'm like, it becomes very evident of who has commitment and determination, not just really from a fitness standpoint, but really because that correlates to mindset, right? Like if you only do something a couple of times, like there's no repetition there. There's no consistency. And in anything you do in life or business or fitness, it's about consistency. It's about sustainability. So I agree with you. And in fact, it's, something that I strive for is trying to figure out, like, how do I sustain this? Because that's the key. Like, how do I make it? Okay, Ivan, you want to do 6 days a week in the gym. And I do, because mind you, like I'm in pursuit of the 6-pack. I really am. I don't care if I fail a million times. I know that one win is going to be the epic win, and whenever that comes. But at the same time, how can I mitigate all of these like mistakes that I do to where I can build that sustainability? Because I look at you, and mind you, for those that are watching and listening everywhere, like Courtney is probably one of the most pliable people I have ever seen. She does some amazing, amazing exercises. Follow her on Instagram, and also go and listen to her podcast, the Courtney Turner podcast as well, and CourtneyTurner.com as well. But, like I look at you, which I know that has taken time for you. I mean, you've embraced this basically throughout your entire life since you were a young age. And so, like, mind you, I've been thinking about that too, because a friend of mine said, like, hey, man, like I've been at this for a long time. Like you can't expect, in 12 to 18 months to get a 6-pack when, you really have embraced the fitness journey as more of a permanent thing as part of your
lifestyle. It's really a lifestyle.
Yep.
Yeah. It's not just a thing you do for a few weeks and then you expect to have magical results,
Yeah. No, that's absolutely right. And, for me, like even over the last couple of months, I've definitely seen results where like, getting bulkier and like gaining muscle, like I can totally tell the difference. But by the way, like being self-aware of something like that is key, because like I'm one of those people that like I'll be working out, and like 3 or 6 months will go by and like I'll be like, what the hell is going on? Like are there any results? I can't tell if there's any results. And I think it's mainly because I look at it from a physical standpoint, not necessarily from a performance standpoint or mindset standpoint or even personal development, which I think, fitness is a lifestyle. I agree with you, but it also has, huge, huge contribution to, a life and business and your mental state and how you perceive things. And I think that has been probably for me, a huge misconception for a long time. In fact, I still struggle with it sometimes. It's like, okay, if I go to the gym for 2.5, 3 hours, ideally 6 days a week, like how does that contribute? Like, it's all these questions, right? That like you question, like, how is this of value? Like, how is this going to help me? Right. Like, great. I'm going to get exercise and that's good for me. Gets the blood pumping. But what else does it do? And I've struggled with this for a long time until I realized that, well, it's helping me become a better person overall. It's changing. I noticed that after workouts, like I'm so physically drained. Like I know on leg day, like I barely make it home. Like I'm dragging, because mind you, after burning 700 calories on cardio and then doing legs, like I feel like my legs are jello. I shit you not.
Oh, I imagine.
But like I get home.
You want to try, this is just a note, but you might want to try reversing it, doing the strength portion first and then doing cardio after. Because if you're doing cardio that's that intensive, you're going to be pre-fatiguing. So it's hard to hit like max load when you're that fatigued. So you can try it, see how you feel. It might improve your strength progress, but.
Well, the one thing that, whether it's pre-fatigue or just tired and exhaustion is like, I've noticed clarity. Like, I feel like things slow down so much that, like, it's hard to explain. Like, they slow down, but you have such immense clarity and you're able to, like, tactically execute on your thoughts.
Yes. That's the meditative aspect. Absolutely.
And like, it's like they say, like, like, be thoughtful about your actions, but intentional, but execute fast. And I feel like I'm executing fast because like that gives me that clarity, but at the same time, I'm actually executing slow. It's kind of hard to explain. Like almost like I have such clarity that like, and mind you, this happens late at night because usually by the time I get home from the gym, it's like evening time. And so like, but then I have such immense clarity and such invigoration and so much energy that I'm like, all right, you know what? I need to get this done. Like I'm tackling shit.
Yeah.
Like it's fascinating. And like one of my struggles have been like also because we talked about morning, we talked about are you a morning person? And like, I've tried to go to the gym, in the morning, like early morning, can't make it happen. No matter what I do, I can't make it happen.
Yeah.
So I usually try to get in the afternoon, like mid-afternoon.
Right.
But I've also, been self-aware about how does that impact my schedule?
Yeah.
Like, because mind you, midday, to go to the gym, 2 to 3 hours usually, and those are my sessions. Like it takes out a chunk of your day, but then at the same time, so these are things that, talking about reflections and gratitude and, we're in the best season of the year too. Like, I feel like these are all things going into 2021 that really anybody needs to take, an inventory of, like, and the other thing is as well, as we're talking about fitness here and as we're talking about routines and reflections, is that I've also started to take inventory of like the people that are part of your support system. Like there's only, if there's one thing I've realized in 2020 is there's only literally a handful of people that truly are like, yeah, Ivan, you can succeed. You can do this. You got it. And I'm not talking about just fitness. It's like winning at life, winning in business, winning in relationships. And like, I think one of the misconceptions that people have is that they think that everybody's going to be their cheerleader, everybody in the world. Everybody's going to be there and say, I want you to win. When in fact, it very much feels like 99% of people want you to fail miserably just because it's going to give them that ultimate satisfaction. And that's probably a big thing that, has been top of mind for me is like, I'm not for everybody. I don't want everybody to like me. I don't want everybody to accept me. I only want those who are like resonate. And prime example is, I actually just got my first coaching client. I'm in to tell you that.
Pretty excited. Amazing.
Yeah, I did. And actually,
what are we coaching?
So this is life and business. And this is really a beta test. In fact, he's someone that I've known for at least 2 years now. I've met him in real life, and he's someone that's really paid attention to like building my business. Razor Sharp Digital is in the best year this year. Over 6 figures, and that's literally what I'm basically teaching is like how am I winning at life, relationships, marriage, happiness, and then what has taken to build to six figures, which quite frankly, getting to six figures is mainly about sustainability and consistency, really, for the most part. But a lot of people like don't know what it takes. So anyway, I wanted to share a story about this because I was going to write a post earlier today, but I didn't get around to it. So he has a connection with a young celebrity. And that celebrity is actually coming into town here in St. Louis because he has roots. Wow. And when I say celebrity, he's worth about 10 million. He's been like on Forbes. He's actually a face of a generation. And my client was like, well, they asked me to help out. They're doing some events, some charity work here in town this week, and they asked me to help out. But dude, I'm starstruck, man. Like, I don't know how to act around this guy. Like, we talk on the phone all the time, and we message and stuff on social media, but like it's only a couple times a year where I might see him face to face. And like my response to him was like, dude, like there's a reason that they reached out to you. Because you're trustworthy, you're consistent, you're dependable, you're a good dude. So like, just be yourself. Don't be I'm talking about like starstruck, like he's been in the media, like red carpet type of shit, but like they even reached out to him and were like, hey, would you mind if we borrowed your car for a week? We'll give you some cash because we're having a hard time even, getting a rental in such a short notice because of the holidays. And like, I was telling him, my client, John, I was like, hey, John, dude, like you're gonna do great, man. Like yourself, just don't be starstruck. Just be, just go out there and be helpful and just be you. Because at the end of the day, they're just like you. They're just a human being that's doing some fascinating things.
Yeah,
that's it.
And we just have a more visible job. That's really what it is.
The reason I shared, right, and the reason I shared this story is because I'm reflecting on what has happened this year, like now really, because I've wanted to get into coaching, but I didn't want to be one of those guys that like, I'm going to teach shit that I've never done, like I despise coaches like that. I really do. Like, and that's one of the reasons why I think I never really has settled on the coach, because I really never found someone who like really practices what they preach.
There are some real scams out there. Coaching is, I think it's part of why I've been very resistant about my own coaching business, because I have been really scammed by people. Like where you just feel so incredibly betrayed and taken advantage of, and then to watch these people have success. Like, I'm not a Schadenfreude person, but to watch them, it makes you think such bad things about the world. Like, how could somebody who's so really though? How could somebody with so little integrity, with so little sense of such a devoid of moral compass, and who is really just a scam? I don't know how else to put it. Just a true con artist, and I've experienced so many of these. And I'm a very trusting person. I really like to try and see the good in people. And so I give people sometimes too many chances. But the downside of that is that when you really believe somebody has the best intentions, even when they hurt you, then when your eyes are opened, you're really devastated. I've experienced that. And I've experienced it with coaches, especially. Like, they charge this ridiculous, exorbitant amount, and then they do nothing. And the worst is when you don't have the results that you agreed on, they try to put it on you. I'm like, add insult to injury. Like, as if it wasn't enough that you betrayed me and you did absolutely nothing. Nothing that you said you would do, did not uphold your contract, showed little support or compassion as a human being. And then tell me that it's my fault. Like, that's a really sore spot for me. So I've been very reticent about it, because I never want to, misguide somebody, or, makes not to feel like I'm not delivering. If I say I'm going to do something, I want to do it. I want to uphold my word. That's really important to me.
I agree with you, and I've been in a similar boat where, last year specifically was badly burned, by a reputable coach, and I think it left a sour taste with me, and it kind of took me some time to really just kind of become more optimistic into it, and very much like you, is I want to be integral with the life and business coaching, which I've wanted to get into, but be really integral, in that regard, because I don't want to teach something that I haven't done. Because, like you said, there's too much of that out there on the internet, and it's just hard for me to grasp. And so, but it was interesting, like giving advice, to this guy about like meeting a celebrity, and it's just like it goes to show that it's the littlest things that can have the biggest impact on people, just like what you say and the perspective really that you project, because after I had that convo with him, it was just like, dude, thanks so much, man. Like I really didn't think about it this way, like I was feeling very starstruck, but that really goes back into like reflecting of this year and being grateful that I've been able to contribute and impact the lives of people by, and not everybody. That's just it. Like, and nor do I. And I think as I'm getting older, I'm realizing that like I don't want to be part of the majority. I'm okay with being part of the minority and impacting only a few people, because it's those people that truly matter. Even if you just impact the life of one person, that's all it takes. One person, and you say something or you do something or you help them in a certain way. And now, being around Christmas, which holy shit, I can't believe it. It's, end of this week and going into a new year. Like I'm really giving significant thought into things like that, like reflections, like what can I change, that I did in 2020 that I can do better in 2021? What am I grateful for this year? Because mind you, this year started off slow. Then we had COVID that hit. And then like, it seems like 8 months of like a hodgepodge, literally.
Oh, gosh.
Then we had the election too, podge shit going on. And it's just like, most people I think get distracted with stuff like that. I would get distracted, and like I'm just glad that like I guess I've been able to maintain a sense of focus. I don't know, like what does truly matter in my life and business? What are my goals? What are my dreams? And just strive towards those relentlessly, regardless of what's happening in the world. Because I've been giving more thought about like regret and living one life, and the fact that it is your life. And you get to control so much of it. So like, and so if you make a good decision and it has a positive result, great. But if you make a bad decision, don't blame somebody else for your bad decisions. Take accountability for those decisions.
Yeah. So it's really interesting because with 2020, I have thought a lot about, just this year and this time of year. I think most people do a lot of reflection and, you have all the holidays, right? You have Thanksgiving, you have Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, and then for me, my birthday is right after that. So it's like
kind of. When's your birthday?
January 15th.
Oh, wow! So that's 5 days before mine.
Oh, is it really? Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're an Aquarius.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, this is a big time for you today, especially with the it's the winter solstice. It is the junction. Saturn and Jupiter are the closest they've been in 800 years, and it's also a solar eclipse. So it's a really big deal, like astrologically, and
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because what's, and mind you, there's probably a whole nother episode about like fate and luck also, because there's some superstitious things that has happened in my life that are just completely unexplainable, that I could just talk so much about. But the fact that you talked about that is so important, because yes, you're right, the winter solstice and all of that, and I don't really pay too much attention to that. So the fact that you actually recognize that is really important, because I think there's huge correlation to like what's happening in the world and fate.
I absolutely believe that. We're magnetic creatures. Like when people say somebody's magnetic, some people actually are literally more magnetic than others. We have an electromagnetic field. Our heart alone has an electromagnetic field up to about 12 feet. That's pretty far.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we literally radiate, and the alignment of the planets and where we are in the solar system at a given time has an effect on the electromagnetic field, of our, surroundings, and that's going to have an impact on us. I don't believe there's any way that it couldn't. That's not to say that, there's lots of superstitions. I don't necessarily fall into as much fun as it is to go read your daily horoscope. I'm not somebody who necessarily thinks it's really fun. But to say that the alignment of the planets and the our place in the solar system has no impact on us as a living, breathing, magnetic beings, to me just doesn't seem right. So that being said, I'm just in terms of somebody who's kind of a astrophysics geek, it's just super exciting.
It really goes back to the Greek gods too, doesn't it? A little bit. And there's so much
Greek mythology too. Yeah.
That's something that, in addition to Egyptology, almost butcher that, Egyptology, Greek methodology too is, maybe because of being Eastern European too, is I think is something I'm very interested in. In fact, we should probably do an episode on that too as well, because that there's so much. I think you're absolutely right. Like when you talked about electromagnetic field and gravitation, also, I think there's a lot, and it's so interesting because this morning I had a conversation about something that I've been working on for a few weeks now, and there was a sign of positivity there, and it's really interesting because this time of year, and I think also my zodiac, in fact, it was my father's birthday yesterday as well. Interesting story. Everyone in my family, with the exception of my mom, so my birthday is on the 20th, my father's birthday is on the 20th, my sister's birthday is on the 20th, and my mom's birthday is on the 22nd. Different months, different years, obviously. Wow. But so like I said, when I said superstitious things, there's been so much of that, and I think now it's so ironic you brought this up about Greek methodology and astrophysics, that I think there's so much in that probably need to dig into deeper, because it just goes to show about my own fate. And I've been very, very lucky my entire life about things that most people that probably couldn't fathom, things that would happen, that the only thing you could probably answer to is it's an act of God. And he has been. So many things that are complete act of God. There's just nothing in the universe, not even science, could explain of why it happened the way it happened. I'll give you an example. I mean, this is probably a little cliche, but this is how, and I don't know if it's intuition, but yesterday I was at the grocery store, and I'm maneuvering through the aisles and stuff, and grabbing stuff, and then I passed this lady. I'm that's my next door neighbor. And mind you, she was wearing a mask, so I couldn't even tell by her face. But intuition was that's my next door neighbor. Well, I get home, and I was gonna say hi to her basically because I knew they was her. I've kind of seen her out before, but I haven't. I was just gonna be polite and say, "Hey, how's it going?" But I didn't. But my intuition was that's the next door neighbor, and I recognized her. Well, I got home. And she got home probably 10 minutes before, and I saw her unloading groceries, and ironically enough, it was her. And it's stuff like that might seem cliche, that intuition, unexplainable things, is kind of how my life has gone. It's you sometimes there's certain almost predictions or things that happen that make me wonder maybe I should do that. It's an insight, It's hard to explain, and I feel the stars and alignment and where we are in the universe probably has a lot to do with a lot of those things,
Yeah, I've been saying that 2020 we usually associate with perfect vision, and I think it's very interesting that this year has brought a lot to light. I think it's part of, so the analogy that I use is it's kind of like a really messy room, right? You look at it, and in order to, when you're starting to first clean it, you actually make more of a mess. You have to take everything out to see everything, so that you know what to clean up and what to get rid of, and where to put things and how to organize it. But you have to, it gets messier. before it actually gets sorted out.
It's true.
It needs to get messier in order to be able to see, in order to have clarity. And I think that that's kind of what we're seeing this year. 2020 to me is a year of light, clarity, truth, and it's vision. We're really starting to see. But a lot of times when we start to actually see, it's very disruptive. It's messy. It's uncomfortable. I always use the Nietzsche quote where he said that people don't like to see the truth because they don't want their illusions shattered. And I think there's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
As humans, we don't like things to be messy and uncomfortable, and we don't always want to know what's real because we've created a vision of things that's aligned with us and that has made sense.
Yeah.
So, but I think that having gotten so much clarity on so many things, we're going to be able to start fixing things and rectifying things and reorganizing things moving forward. And I think on a grand scale, that's going to actually bring tremendous progress moving forward. And
yeah, no, that's an excellent point about 2020 and clarity and vision.
We'll be really grateful when 2020 becomes hindsight.
I feel like one thing that I've been reflecting upon too, as you were talking about 2020 and clarity and vision, is that this is a time of year when people really are thinking about their goals again for the next year. And we're talking about fitness is like, how most people are like, yeah, I'm thinking about my fitness goals that probably are going to die by like end of January for most people, right? Because they get all riled up. And actually, this is the time when you see all the gym commercials, right? Of like, hey, sign up, by the first year, no money down, blah, 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 but like you're absolutely right, because I think 2020, and I've seen some people talk about this, is that it is a year about clarity and vision and really, defining like what's really important to you only. And you should do that. You should say, what is important to me? What have I been doing well? How can I be more persistent in my pursuit of this? Like most people think, the people that set goals and have dreams are crazy. In fact, I just got into a feud with a family member over the fact that, they said that wealthy people, it was, about, it was about that basically the wealthy people are supposedly some of the most unhappiest. And I'm like, I don't know what you've been reading or what you've been listening to, but like, that's completely false. And that's when I also realized that, what, family, friends, acquaintances, everybody will think that I'm crazy. Everybody, and that's okay. I mean, most people already thought that I was crazy. So like, why, what's different about them thinking that I'm crazier? But what's really funny about this, Courtney, is just that as I'm starting to see certain goals and some dreams come to reality, like the haters and the naysayers are starting to come out of the woodworks. Like suddenly they're your best friend, or they're going to support you and encourage you. And I was reading this somewhere of like the evolution of like how most people, somebody was talking about this, it was somewhere on social media, of like the evolution of like, hey, the world sees you as a giant failure, right? And then like you evolve and grow and become successful in some means. And then suddenly the world like turns around and certainly they're your best friend, like they try to support you, encourage you, and they want to be next to you. And like, oh yeah, when you had all along, it's like bullshit. You didn't, like, you wanted me to fail miserably, and it's, so I think that's probably what personally I'm going to see a lot of in 2021 is like so many things come to fruition and be able to reach some goals and achieve even more dreams, that I've been in pursuit of. And I think that's what gives me happiness, that.
Yeah.
So anyway, great episode, as always. Want to wish you, season's greetings, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. In fact, I think we're 1 or 2 episodes away actually from wrapping up the year. Come to think of it, it's crazy because it's only less than 2 weeks, and actually Friday is New Year's Day, so we'll probably have a pre-recorded version of the episode, probably no live because I'm going to be somewhere with family most likely, you know. And so we've got next week really, which I think the 31st is Thursday, I believe, of December. So Friday is the 1st of January,
Oh my God. No.
Yeah.
I want to do something you were saying about like the haters, the naysayers, and like even family members, and I think a lot of that too. I really admire people who are like at a very young age able to have that kind of vision where they just go for it and they don't care.
Yeah.
Because I think it is something that comes with maturity. Like, as you get older, you know yourself better. You know what you need, and you're less willing to, no matter who it's from, because of course we always want to, please our family and our close friends, people who we care about. I don't mean just like the periphery, but like people who are really important to us. We want them to be happy. We want them to be proud of us. That's natural. That's human. But I think that as you get older, you start to recognize that even if they may not agree and they may not be able to see, they're coming from a place of wanting for the best for you, hopefully. Most of the time they are. That doesn't mean that they necessarily share your vision or understand what it is you're trying to accomplish or the possibilities that lie. And they're coming from a sense of wanting to protect you, wanting to, oftentimes that's really is where it's coming from. And I think like with maturity, you start to realize that you need to be true to yourself, and you're going to make mistakes. It's not always going to be right. Yep. There's going to be, certainly the life of an entrepreneur, this, it's a roller coaster, but just because you are at the bottom of the roller coaster doesn't mean that you never rise back up again, and that's what a lot of people who don't understand that lifestyle or don't have that kind of mindset, they don't understand it. And so they're just looking at, oh my goodness, I don't want you to get to the bottom, like how can we buffer that? How can we protect you? And I think as you get older, you start to recognize, well, I might need that, like that might be part of my journey. Yep. And I'm going to stay on this path because it's really important to me. And this is my vision, and I created my purpose, and this aligns with my purpose.
You're 100% on point. In fact, as you were sharing all of that, I could totally relate to like my parents, for instance. I love them both to death. They've been very helpful, very supportive, but at the same time, they've completely misunderstood what I've been after for a long time. And as you were talking about, like trying to please others, I think, they were very protective for a long time because they didn't want me to fail, but they wanted me to remain comfortable. And comfortable is great, but there's no growth in comfort. Like you were talking about, like, when you're cleaning a room, it actually becomes messier first because you have to declutter it. Right. So like now the things are really starting
there too. Yeah.
And literally now that, and I've had some conversations with my father specifically about this, but, they're starting to observe and see how, okay, you've been kind of chasing a wild goose chase for a while, but it's starting to pay off, slowly but surely. And I think that that's one of those situations, like, them being protective and they wanting to support me. But in fact, support is, like letting me be on my own mission, and just be supportive if I need support. It's not dependency, it's support. There's a difference between, dependency and support. And, that makes me happy but at the end of the day, is like you said, nobody's really going to understand your vision. Nobody's going to understand. The only person that's going to understand your vision is you. The only person that's going to really see the light at the end of the tunnel is going to be you. Right. Because and that comes with all kinds of nuances. Light at the end of the tunnel is like, how are you going to get from, oh shit, like, how am I going to fulfill, like with, we've talked about WIM, and we've talked about, different things that you're doing on your own journey, which I'm very, very excited about for you, because I think 2021 is going to be your year, to bring all of this to reality. But at the end of the day, you're the one that sees that vision. Nobody else sees that vision. And, I resonate with that so much because nobody understands my vision, not even my wife. Part of the vision, part of the dream, absolutely, but definitely don't see like, how are we going to get there until like we get there. And it's like, okay, we've got everything that we've ever wanted. that we wanted to achieve. But like, oh my God, like it took 5 years, 6 years of like grunting and panting and sacrifices and risks and all kinds of stuff that like in the midst of all of that, family and friends and people on social media are like, you're fucking crazy, man. Like, just fold, cut your losses, as they say, while you can. But that's why, you and I are exceptional. That's why you and I are those people that are like, we're visionaries and goal getters. And it's important, the world needs more people like that, because you know what? I don't know about you, but the world keeps getting more mediocre to me every day.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of it.
So anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. As always, totally love our conversations, and for everyone that's watching and listening out there, make sure I forgot to mention that the RAS Project Overdrive. These are pre-recorded episodes that are also now going to be airing as well, that you can check out on all the major outlets. And then obviously the RAS Project Live, which me and Courtney jam on Mondays and Fridays at 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern, and 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Courtney, thank you so much. Happy holidays to you, and wishing you nothing but the best, joy and cheer and happiness, and whatever you set your mind to, going into 2021. Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a great day. Thank you so much, Courtney, for joining me.